I thought there was two winners out of this, and you might be surprised by both of them, but certainly one of them. So the less surprising one, I think, is Rand Paul. I thought he finally at least made a case for himself, right? He kind of disappeared and got bullied and run over in the other debates, kind of melted into the background. At this debate, at least he said, okay, look, these guys want to spend more money, including on defense. I don't, right? I'm the conservative. I want to spend less money. Right? So that was a clear distinction. These guys want to keep going to war and say stupid things like, oh, I want to do a no-fly zone in an area where Russian jets are flying. That means you got to shoot them down. That's dumb, right? So I don't know that that's going to win him the primary overall, but at least now he planted his flag.
Yes.
And you go, okay, and then he got some applause lines, and you're like, okay, at least I know what I'm voting for if I get Rand Paul.
He also called out the moderators when it came to TPP and Trump's statements about how it's a big giveaway to China, right? And then Rand Paul was like, can we just note that China has nothing to do with this, right? And then, of course, the moderator got all like, choked up over that because he realizes he's an idiot and he doesn't even know what's in TPP. But that was, in my opinion, one of the best moments for Rand Paul, along with his foreign policy where he was kicking ass.
That's how bad the journalists were, that they wouldn't even correct Donald Trump that China is not part of the TPP. They were just going to let that slide.
I don't think he knew. I don't think he knew. To be honest with you.
You mean the moderators?
I don't think the moderators knew.
It's that guy from the Wall Street Journal had to know. You don't think Ben Kingsley
is really long? It's so many pages.
If it was 3 pages, they'd have known.
They would have read
3
it,
pages is the maximum you can read.
I mean, so what was the benefit of having Ben Kingsley on that moderator panel?
To creep us out with
star power.
Yeah. Well, he did. To be fair, he did ask slightly tougher questions than the Fox sellouts.
I was going to say Rand Paul, but now I don't want to be a follower. So I'm going to say I think that a close secondary winner maybe is Marco Rubio. Because I think it's Jeb Bush's continued failure. Nobody, I think, gains more in the short and medium term when Jeb fails than Marco Rubio. Because right now, I think that the 8% or so that they're each getting could easily become 16% for Marco Rubio. I think that Marco Rubio was boring and cliched. He was the Republican Martin O'Malley in terms of like his platitudes about family and all of that. But I think that compared to like a Kasich who sort of flamed out and Ted Cruz who creeped out everyone in the room, I think that Marco Rubio still looked better than those people. I think that Ben Carson was invisible, so I think that, again, that helps Marco Rubio. I think that overall, I think that this could help him. He's continuing to be at least passable in these debates. And I think that considering that all he really has to do is wait out the flaming out of Ben Carson and Donald Trump and the continued influx of massive money to his campaign, simply being passable so long as Jeb Bush is failing, I think that is a win.
Look, I agree largely with John's analysis. I don't think Marco Rubio did well in this debate at all, but just by the mere fact of Jeb Bush's implosion, more money is going to pour into Marco Rubio. The question is, at the end of the day, can he actually beat anybody, right? So yes, he's going to get more establishment support. Yes, he's going to get more money after this debate. Then what's he going to do with it? I mean, he has been sitting at around 5 to 8% forever, right? He hasn't made any kind of run into the, high teens, let alone the 20s that Carson and Trump are in. So let's not get over, let's not overvalue Marco Rubio's strength here because he's strong with the establishment, but the Republican voters keep saying, we hate the establishment. That's why we're putting Carson and Trump at the top. So who do you think won, Anna?
It's really hard for me to say. Every single politician on that floor said the same thing over and over again. But I would argue that, for me, Rand won more than anyone else. He had the strongest moments. Yeah, and the sense that I got from Rand was that he realizes that he's so low in the polls, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe he's willing to take more risks, be a little more outspoken, because in the last debates, he was a little less aggressive. In this debate, he was definitely more aggressive with his foreign policy, aggressive in chiming in about TPP. I love that. And so I think that he won the most out of the candidates. I don't know what the audience thought, though.
Right. Okay, so my second pick for the biggest winner is a surprising one, Ben Carson. So he was nearly invisible throughout the whole debate, barely said anything, and whatever he said was either contradictory or irrelevant, right? He just talked in circles. It was word clouds, right? But that helps him because all these other guys are punching themselves in the face, right? And a lot of Jeb Bush's disaster unfolding, Kasich hurts himself, Trump might have hurt himself, and Carson's just sitting there going,
Yeah.
right? He's
Incognito.
leading in the polls, and he's like, I got to be the leader in the polls by saying absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it up. Okay, I'm going to say nothing and hope that you vote for me. It's worked so far, and if that's the strategy, I think it worked again.
And then when he does speak, he speaks so slowly that it puts you to sleep, so you don't even know what his message is.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you walk away from the debate thinking, well, that's the one guy I don't hate.
Right.
Okay.
And if he was a new candidate, or if his exact performance was performed by someone else, I would say that it was a failure. But he has apparently come out of every debate doing well, doing exactly what he did there. So despite the fact that it seems like a horrific performance, why not continue it? The expectations for him are so low.
Yes.
In every way, in terms of honesty, in terms of passion, in terms of knowledge. It's pathetic.
It's incredible that he's the front runner for the Republican Party right now, or at least he's leading in the polls, when he himself has admitted on the record that he knows nothing about foreign policy.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that for a second.
Yeah. And so today in his one foreign policy answer, he threw out a couple of areas, regions in the Middle East. It's the old trick I used to do when I didn't know anything, right? And I had to take an exam. I'd come up with very specific examples to write about in the exam, so that it seemed like, ooh, if he knows about what's going on in the Anbar province, he really knows what's going on, right? It's the oldest trick in the book. And, he was a very good student, so he probably learned that trick at some point.
Right.
An angel taught him in his sleep.
Yeah, so he's admitted in the past he doesn't know anything about foreign policy. He says, I guess I'll figure it out, kind of like Trump when I become president, which is amazing. And then now they're like, oh, you're busting my balls over it. Oh, so I think what's happening in the Anbar province is unacceptable. I would change it. Right? It didn't really mean anything, right? But he threw Anbar in there, and they're like, oh, good enough. Okay, Ben Carson's still in the lead.
Amazing.
I don't like what's going on in the Diamond Bar province. Have you been up there? It's fucking fucked up.
I've actually just heard from the control room that CNN's reporting that Hillary Clinton won. I'm never going to not like that joke.